welcome back to Spirit Coffee Talk. I guess I'm happy to be back to Spirit Coffee Talk. And all three of us are back together again. So Ginette and Elyse took over for a couple weeks while I was gone. And then last week, Ginette took the stage while Elyse and I were away. But we're all, the crew's back together again. And welcome. This week, we are going to be doing things a little bit differently, maybe, that we are just going to connect together, the three of us, and just talk. And like three friends would get together and have a literal spirit coffee talk, but just in the comfort of our own home. And maybe you guys just kind of can be a fly on the wall and get a glimpse of what it is and how it feels when the three of us just get together on our own privately to kind of just talk about our stuff. So we didn't have anything really specific. We were talking about maybe for anyone who's wondering what to expect when you book a session with us, and on a really like mm, I would say like not a structural level, but like kind of just like conversation about how our readings go and the differences in it and what people generally expect and then what people generally get. And you can kind of have an inside perspective on what we talk about behind the scenes. So welcome this week. And I'm really happy to see my good friends again and how much I missed you.
It's
So
so good to have you back too, truly. And Elise too, happy to have you back. It's just great to have the crew here.
Feel like I'm
And
back like half.
yeah, right. Elise is half in another world right now
Elise,
still.
Elise
So
had a little surgery, and Elise doesn't fully feel presently. Elise, so if I have like a glazed over zombie, I'm good. I just wanted to be here. Same as with Lisa. I was like, I don't want to miss Spirit Coffee Talk, but also I don't know how effective I'm going to be. This would be an energy I would not do a reading in because I don't know how great
totally
it would be.
fair.
No.
Totally
but
fair.
isn't that interesting though with surgeries how sometimes when your soul has an opportunity to go somewhere far when you are like so medicated and actually knocked out, right? Coma, surgery, um, you name it. The soul has this opportunity to just go like, right? Like so full, pull its fragments, go do a thing that sometimes it's hard to pull it back.
Yeah.
And so I remember even talking with you, Lisa, after my second surgery, after my NDE one, had a second one. Um, I it took me like 2 weeks to get myself back, and I kept feeling kind of like you are, Elise, where I was just like couldn't get my whole brain together. Like I wanted to like clunk it into place,
Mhm.
and I couldn't until suddenly I think Lisa, you brought me into a meditation, um, where I saw myself in some cave somewhere underground in some other reality, and then I saw myself walk back, and then clunk back in my
Huh.
body. And then I was like, well,
Mhm.
now here I am. But it was
Mhm.
2 weeks after. And
Yeah.
like my soul was just like expanded doing something else that took priority during the healing
Yeah.
time.
And like so far, because like your soul can go so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at least yours did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been an
Like,
interesting experience because I mean, like logically I know that, but I've not had like a big surgery before. I've never been put out for that long. I've never had anything extensive like that. And so I really didn't know what to expect. And I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it either. And I didn't really know what to expect. And so it's been a really strange, actually, experience, like some ways after post surgery easier and in some ways more challenging because there's been this battle in my mind where my brain's like, okay, well, you should feel better, you should be good, you should be good. And because I have this A, healing, but also B, just like whatever, wherever I am off doing whatever I'm doing, there's a real sense of like limitation to what my body can do. So I'll like get out of bed, and like we went to Home Sense for like all of an hour trip, and I was like, okay, I need a nap. Like I reach a limit of like, oh, I've put some dishes away. Okay, I need to lay down. And my body's being very communicative about like, you've reached your energy max. Now go lay down in your charging pod to
yeah.
like get yourself back together. And then a couple hours later, depleted again. And so it's been a really interesting experience that my brain did not anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
But good for you for just acknowledging that. Like sometimes on a human level, it can be hard because you want to be you know, more functional.
You just want to
And
feel good.
yeah, exactly. I remember after like my babies, especially my fourth, when I had her in C-section, and like the postpartum was just brutal, and she was in the hospital, and it was like I felt like I had to like come back and like almost forgive myself for judging myself so much on wanting to be better than I was. It's like,
Mhm.
come on, like you can do, like why is it taking you so long?
Mhm.
And it's like if you step back and like just remove all this like judgment that we have on ourselves for having to or wanting to be this or this, and then just allow this phase of healing
Mhm.
physically, spiritually, like getting and realigning your like spirit to your body, like that isn't just a, like a
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
especially through the upgrade, because it's not like your just soul just left and then it's just going to come back. Like there's so much that's transpired during that, right? And like so much experience, and then to integrate it into our cellular structure plus physically healing, like
Mhm.
kudos to you, Elise.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Seriously.
it is a lot.
Hmm.
Speaking of those upgrades and all of that, like we have been moving through so many upgrades energetically, even this week. If we only look at this week, we had the new moon on the first, we had the numerological alignment of 22222, which is huge. Two is a huge number. We're in 2022. We had February 2nd, 2022. It's going to be amplified on the 22nd. And then after we had Mercury going direct finally on the 3rd, like that's a huge shift because I don't think, if I remember correctly, we don't have any planets in retrograde right now either. So Mercury, that big heavy hitter one, is finally forward, right? So that's a huge ton of good things, but there's still an adjustment to the good things too. Not even just like
Totally.
crappy chaos energies, but even good ones. When things click into alignment or fall into alignment, there's an adjustment.
Totally. And one thing that Spirit said to me this morning during one of my sessions was with the upgrades. So, like, upgrades are happening inevitably, especially this week. So, it's happening massively on an individual scale, which in turn is happening massively on a collective scale, right? And then there's an internal upgrade on like a like earth-based scale, right? Which is then collectively on like outer earth and like universal scale. Like it's like permeating out, and it's big. And so we're all feeling it in one way or the other. And sometimes it can come with a little bit of um like when it happens so much and then we can feel it on a cellular level. So like physically, sometimes we can be like take a big step back and be like, I want to cover myself up, right? Like, but you can't. It's like you can't hide from this. Like it's happening. And so we're all feeling it a bit different, but we all are feeling it on this upgrade. And so one thing Spirit did say to me was no matter how we're feeling it, is to help physically move it through your body. So
Mm-hmm.
like picture like an upgrade happening, and like almost like a system that's moving through, like infiltrating, like when you turn like a sand like through like whatever, and it's like going through your system. There's so much happening that you can actually do things to help it physically move through your body to bring yourself into more of a lighter, enlightened, or like balanced state. And for some of us, that's actually, it requires physical, like if you're feeling like you need to move your body more, like, and like, so if you're having a big upgrade and you need to move it through like a workout, or yoga is a really good way to do it. Or if you're healing from surgery, you're not lifting weights, but they're
Yeah.
saying like a way to move it through is like standing in the shower and actually like visualizing the water like carrying it down through your body, right? Or being outside and grounding it through the earth's core, right?
Mm-hmm.
So moving it through, and they're saying even silly things like stomping your feet or clapping your hands, like, like that kind of stuff. Because, and we talked about this before with dance,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but like every single human this week has endured an upgrade of sorts. And if they've completely rejected the upgrade, then like they're gonna feel it in different ways. But we don't really need to go into that because most people watching didn't do that. So
Yeah,
anyway,
most people want the
yeah,
upgrade.
yeah. So that's why they're like, no, no, no. Allow and really feel like, instead of being like, why am I feeling so anxious? Or like, why am I've got this like achy legs, or I'm having insomnia, or it's like there's so much processing through your cells, like on a cellular level, from this incredible energetic upgrade on so many levels, that
Mhm.
it's almost like the resistant to this weirdness in your body, if you're not really sure of what it is, it can feel weird and you kind of want to escape it. So to help move through that is literally helping you move so it works itself through you. Does this make sense?
No, 100%. Because even last night, like I was feeling this shift and goodness and lots to be grateful for and all this kind of stuff. But I was also kind of tired because often upgrades bring this kind of fatigue feeling too.
Mhm.
But I was like, last night, I was like, I need to go to dance, right? I had a dance class last night, and it was like this clear thing. Not that I planned on not going, but it was this loud thing of you need to be at dance. And when I got to dance, the ability to just move, I
Yeah.
came back feeling so different. Like it
Yeah.
just, I had to move freely without thinking. I just needed
Yeah.
to do it,
Yeah. And
right? So
even
I
like,
totally get it.
even if you're feeling difficult, like moving, even like swaying,
Mm-hmm.
because that's like moving your spine. Or like
Mm-hmm.
in one reading, I this woman, like she had difficulties physically moving, she was in a lot of pain, and so we did like even like belly rolls, like in yoga, where you just like scoop your belly and bring it forward like that, and it's like about moving the spine. There's a bunch, because there's so much of this like light rod that's coming through all the way, alighting like through your spine, and that's where like a lot of this energy is actually coming through, is through your spine energy, and then it's like coming outwards that way is how they showed it to me. And so like by moving your spine, that's why like dance will feel good. But if you can't move that much, it can be as simple as just like little belly rolls, so that your spine is like a spoon kind of moving, or just swaying, so that you can feel this energy moving through your spine.
Yeah, I
I
think that's
think
fantastic.
too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I think that if people listening, because sometimes for some reason, well, for many reasons, we like get embarrassed about like moving in non-traditional ways. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, or Lisa's listed off a bunch of different options, but like, I don't know if I want to do those, or I feel like put yourself in a safe space, whether it's like you go stand in your bedroom and close the door, or your office, or like the bathroom, close the door, sit on the toilet, and just
Totally.
imagine like an elevator dropping from your mind into your heart, and then just ask yourself, how does my body want to move? And just do it. Like, let go of the expectation, let go. If you want to have the lights off because you feel weird or whatever, do that. But do whatever is going to make you feel more the most comfortable and safe that you can. And then just drop into your body and ask it what it wants to do to move the energy. And it
Yeah.
will give you an answer, even if that's
Totally.
like just sitting, swaying from side to side. Like, it could be as simple as that. Do that.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be something fancy or a dance class. And if it is that, then do that too, right? Like,
Totally.
we overthink these things, and it's like, just
Yeah.
drop into your body, ask it what it wants to do, and then do that. Right.
Great point.
Yeah.
Totally.
I find too, just on that, is even closing your eyes. So you're not
Oh,
even witness to yourself in your own
yeah.
space. Even if you're by yourself in the bathroom, lights off, if your eyes are open, you're still witnessing. So if you
Hmm.
close your eyes, then it's like you take that visual out, and then maybe you're willing to,
Yeah.
like head to one side or the
Yeah.
other. Like,
It
it's
takes
just,
you into a different kind of environment almost.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just
where you're
don't,
not witnessing yourself.
trip on your squatty potty in the dark in your bathroom. Hurt yourself.
Probably not a good
Safe
idea.
while doing this.
It's so funny because I forget sometimes how like how really truly far I've come in that perspective. Is like I don't even think about what I might look like.
Mhm.
Almost to the point where I really embarrass my family. Like I have a 14-year-old daughter. So like if I'm out, or we had like a trip that was awful, but we won't talk about that. And we were in the airport for like 24 hours stuck. And and I knew my body needed to move, and I was like getting caught up, and I could feel other people's energy because everybody was angry, right? And it was just like storms, and I'm like, and I could feel it. And I'm like in the middle of the airport, I'm like, and I'm like doing this like friend, and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? I'm like, Sarah's like, stop it. Seriously, stop it. And she like kept walking away from me because I'm like doing forward folds and like sitting on the ground instead of the chair because I needed to ground and be like, And I'm not going into like full chant, but like I needed to have this, I needed to keep this vibration. So any of that outside stuff, I had to literally tune out. So I like forgot
Yeah.
about other people's anything because I had to block it out. Meanwhile, 14-year-old's not going to forget about what other people think, right? That's front and center. She's just like,
Mhm.
I'm out of here. Like, toodaloo, my mom's nuts.
See you later, Mom. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Oh man, I love that. Hey, so not to totally deviate topics, but to completely change trajectories here of topics, just because we brought it up in the beginning, and I think it's so important, which is also how our conversations go. They're like, woo, woo,
Yeah,
woo.
yeah.
Um, how have your readings been going? How have you noticed session info is coming in lately?
Like so good. So I had to take the last month off. Obviously, I wasn't here, but I also had to like cancel all my sessions and rebook them. So then now I've like my first 3 weeks of February is just insane because I had to take like the end of December, all of January, and then the bookings and fit them all into the first 2 weeks. So it's like, anyway, it's been so beautiful and
Mm,
so clear. And every session, I'm just like I'm just being pulled higher and higher into this like beautiful love frequency. And so I really want to do talk about because for a lot of people, I think they're quite surprised with what they get. And I know that if there's anybody watching that's like had a session with me, they'll know. But if you haven't and you're thinking whether it's right for you or whether it's right for somebody that you might know, everybody works differently, right? So, like if you've had a session with Elyse or Ginette, like it's going to be significantly different between the two, or with me, yet we all bring something very different and significant to the table from spirit. Right. And that isn't, it's just like because we channel spirit doesn't mean that you're going to get the same thing because it all comes through differently. Like, just like some people's modality is tarot cards or
mm,
tea leaves
yep.
or whatever it might be, or sound or whatever. And for me, I'll just do a brief. Is that
Yeah.
cool? Like, what takes, okay, so when you book a session, we start off right away where I ask my higher self, and now this was guided to me like piece by piece from spirit, from my guides, and how I was guided fully from a higher perspective on how to do what I'm doing. It's not a class I took. Literally, it was just something that is just like I developed over time. So essentially what I have to do is I have to pull forward my higher self, brings it forward, and my guides step in. And then I ask for that to happen and that I receive any messages from and only from the highest consciousness available
Hmm.
for the greatest good of all involved.
Hmm.
And then I ask the individual's higher self and guides to step forward and meet me and allow me access into their energy field to receive from and only from the highest consciousness available for the greatest good of all. And then may we be surrounded. I put like a surrounding around us of peace, love, ease, and grace. And so then I go in and then I literally feel when it has opened up and I am gained access. It's like I like I can get little bits beforehand, but when their higher self and guides give me access, then all of a sudden it's like this this open parting of this white kind of like consciousness that flows in. And
Hmm.
I always have my eyes closed too. So if you do that, like I'll be in and out, but mostly especially at the beginning, my eyes are closed because when it comes in, it comes in like different ways. So either I get a vision of like pictures or symbols. And I know they're symbols because they make it show it in a symbolic way versus like an actual thing that happened.
Hmm.
So we'll start with that, or a picture or a movie kind of that's playing, and it can be a literal scene from their childhood. I'm like, okay, they're showing me and you're like 6 years old and you're wearing this little red dress, and they show me the exact room, who you're with, and then they bring me to that moment so that we can go back there, not to relive. Usually it's something that kind of happened that changed the trajectory of the perception and like their authenticity. So we either go back to that place and like rewrite the script almost so they can go and like feel that and like grab that part of themselves and like rewrite the inauthentic belief that was created from that thing. So that's a big one, like where we'll work a lot through that. Or there'll be like significant time or people or places, or I'll get a little bit of symbolism, and then all of a sudden I'll know it's like, okay, no, this is just a channel. And it'll be either from their guides or from spirit or from my counsel, and I'll just start channeling for them. And it'll be like, okay, and you did this and this and this and this and this. And it's very rarely predictive, but it's talking usually about current situation in which they can see it from a perspective to realign so that they can then move forward in a very authentic and open way, so removing obstacles or clearing their blocks, or really inviting them to like pull all their things forward for them to look at, because it comes from a place that I have no idea who they are. And I also say I don't want to know anything. I
Yeah.
don't wanna know a thing. Don't say anything to me. I need it to be direct. And it's like what literally the reason why Spirit has brought us together is for that message. And
Mhm.
that usually takes about 70% of our call.
Mhm.
And then I open up the microphone to them. And if somebody, and lots of times loved ones will kind of come through, I'll be like, oh, like I got somebody here, or they want to help like about this, so like loved ones. And then if somebody hasn't come through, I can always feel if somebody's, or like, is there somebody you want to call or something? And then they'll say, and then I like very rarely do we not reach that person
Yeah.
or that spirit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's just like final questions. And then I always say, allow at least 2 weeks to let everything
Yeah.
sink in,
Mhm.
because the message and the energy is going to continue coming in for that person for the next like 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then they can like rebook in a month if they want to. And sometimes people do like 30 minutes every month because it's more of a like a life coaching from spirit kind of thing. And sometimes it's like all about like rewriting the trauma response kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that's experience with me, generally speaking. Sometimes they take funny turns and it's like, whoa, I've never seen this, or and that's cool, right? And it only happens, and it's always, I'll communicate in a way that this person will understand and where they are in their frequency. So it's never better or worse. It's
Mhm.
just how I can go in. Oh, and they're reminding me a lot of times, like if somebody's got something going on in their body, like I'll feel it. And when that happens, I don't keep it. Like when I'm like, oh my God, I can feel it in my back. And like, I'm like, you have like something's out of aligned in your vertebrae or something. I feel it so that I can talk about it, but then afterwards it's gone. Like I don't carry any of it.
Yeah.
Closed
Yeah. Right. You
afterwards.
don't want to carry that after. No, for
No.
sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
What
How
about
about
you?
you, Elise?
So I mean, similar process for me. One thing I did want to say, Lisa, as you were talking about that you open up and connect to the highest good, highest voice, highest consciousness. Um, if you're ever out in the world looking for somebody to do an intuitive reading, that's always a great question to ask, because not everybody has the same process like that. But you always want to make sure, if you're getting readings from people, that they're doing some sort of opening like that. And you can always ask, because you always want to make sure that you're getting that highest good information.
Yeah, because have you guys ever had a reading from someone who didn't do that? I didn't know beforehand, and then the info that came in was like, it's like she was
Mhm.
accurate, but it was like not
Yeah.
Yeah.
high vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were saying that, I was like, oh, that's a good thing to just kind of let people know, because we do it automatically. And I usually share with people that I do it and that's what I'm doing. But not everybody does that. And, everybody has their way of things. But for me, I always like to, if I'm getting readings from other people, know that that's what they're doing, just so that I
Totally.
can feel really good about the information that I'm getting, because sometimes it's not always what we want to hear. It's sometimes what we need to hear. But if it's something that I don't know that I wanted to hear, but it was important, at least I know it's coming from that highest place versus like just wherever.
Totally.
So yeah, I love that you said
And
that.
I'll never say to somebody, no, that's an absolute, like, you can't do that, because
Totally.
that takes away free will. Like, you can do whatever you want. But
Yeah.
at this point in time, right now, and I'm not saying that can't even change, because as we've talked about before, things change all the time. I'll say, like, from the perspective of right now, for the greatest good, what we asked, it isn't in your highest good to do that right now.
Mhm.
You can still do it.
Mhm.
It's not impossible, but
Yeah.
and then it's always like, here's why, kind of thing. And like we were saying before, it's very rarely predictive unless it's like really clear.
Mhm.
But usually it's like from the energy right now and from what's lined up with your highest self, this is the probability is leaning towards this.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just to say, to kind of balance also what you're saying, Elyse, too, is the reason why that is so important, I think, to go up that high is because, first of all, like the highest good of all involved, the highest um, resource, highest light, all that kind of stuff is because you're going to get more accuracy in the predictability of that snapshot, first of all, because if you don't go up that high, I know there's times where I have this mantra, this not a mantra, but like a series of things I say, which is like my entry prayer, right? When I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, which I do in the beginning, I have a thing I say that walks me into that door that gives me access, right?
Totally.
And I find if I don't take the time needed to say that full thing, even if like I will get stuff starting to come in the minute I close my eyes, like the second I close my eyes, but I will ask it to wait so I can finish that. So I know that I've created this great lock of matched frequencies because if I don't, then sometimes there's like pesky energies that can come in.
100%.
And so I've learned that the value of, first of all, completing that lock is really important because if people don't, so if other people trying to read for people don't do that, like Lisa was saying, you can get messages that come in that are pesky in nature, some either to throw you off as the medium, right? It's like, why am I seeing that? I don't want to see that spiral, or to throw off the value of what the reading can be,
Mm-hmm.
right? To keep that person coming to you in this energy versus this energy, because
Right.
any quality reading should leave the person feeling understood, with more clarity, some steps forward, and
Totally.
at least supported and held. It should
Mhm.
not leave people in turmoil, which I think is the
We're
really sad
scared.
part. With
Yeah.
yeah, some people leave a reading terrified because a person tapped into a low vibe frequency.
Mhm.
It should always leave people higher. So I think that's a very good thing for you to say, Lise, to ask those questions, or that should be a part of their introduction, like you were saying, Lisa. Every time I sit down with someone, I tell them how the reading, how it works for me, where I go, what I'm doing, and that they can stop me or interrupt me at any point, and it should only leave them feeling safe and held,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that should be the foundational pieces.
I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, because even if you're getting, information, understanding of maybe like, oh, that was not the answer I was hoping for, or like, oh, I was thinking this, or again, a quality reading should always have the messaging of it's ultimately your choice. And it's also my belief that like, even if you make the wrong choice that's not aligned with what spirit is saying in that exact moment, that the universe is always conspiring to support your highest good.
Totally.
And so there can be a lot of pressure sometimes in readings where it's like, oh, is this relationship meant for me? And then someone will be like, no, it's not. And then you're like, but I don't feel, and there's a fear, you're not ready or whatever. And maybe things change. Like there's so many infinite ways that things can go that sometimes readings can end up, you never want your reading to end up feeling like you're in like a straitjacket of this is what I have to do. It should leave you feeling uplifted, like you were saying, Ginette, supported, and like, you know that there are multiple choices, and then you feel empowered to make the choice that's most in alignment with you at that moment. And like Lisa was saying, that can ebb and flow and change. And in my readings, I too walk people through at the beginning, this is how it goes. For me, usually right after I open up, it's the person's higher self coming in, and it's very direct, and it usually goes to, I invite people, if you have questions, save them till the end. Let's just give them the mic to see what they have to say and what they want to know. And they'll usually pick something and off we go. Same thing for me. It's usually it's channeled and very literal. Sometimes it's very direct, not in like a mean way, but in like it's your higher self. So they can call you on your BS, right? Like they know the stories that you tell yourself, and they know the ways that you might limit yourself, and the ways you might hold yourself back. So sometimes it can be very like, okay, enough of that. And
Yeah.
it's always delivered in a
So
loving
funny.
way,
And it's
but it's
our
like,
job to almost like filter it into human so
yeah.
that we can deliver it with a little bit more compassion, because it's not delivered with a ton of compassion,
Yeah.
right?
Stop doing that. Okay. That's not always that simple. So yeah, for me, it usually takes kind of an approach like that. And then same thing, we have loved ones come through, we'll have, you know, and it's often around things that are just feeling really pertinent in your life that maybe you're feeling quite stuck in. You know, like I said, certainly loved ones come through and we can call out to them and be like, hey, what you got? But, you know, I think it's also important to know too that we can call on loved ones to show up. Maybe they don't show up right in like the beginning instances, but we can say like, hey, grandpa, are you there? I have a grandpa in spirit that does not say anything. Like he just never has, never will. Like he just is there. And he'll kind of show up in a reading and be like, if I ask and be like, he's like, yeah, I'm here, but I don't have anything to say. And so that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, anything bad or that you're not going to have a quality reading, but spirit, just as we get to decide what we say and don't say, they get to decide that too. And sometimes they're like, no, I don't really have anything for you right now. So I'm here, love you, you know, here's a sign or whatever, but maybe I don't have anything to communicate right now. So I think that that can be an important distinction too, because sometimes we feel let down. I know after he first passed, I like wanted him to show up and say things and he just wasn't, but he was also taking on his quality in life of, he was often, you know, the one that would sit back and like let things unfold. And so he takes a very similar role in spirit as well.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So just as another kind of tidbit of sometimes in readings, this is what that can look like. The spirit of your loved one might not have anything to say.
Mhm.
So on not on that note, slightly with that, not that note, but with readings. Wow, brain. That was
In addition to that note.
On that
in
note, sort of.
addition. Wow.
Yeah.
Something that came up just the other day, actually, that someone asked me a question about, and I think it is a very good point to stress too about mediumship readings or any information that comes from spirit of a predicted timeline or like yes factor or no factor. And this is it. If you are asking for insights that involves anybody else's free will but your own, spirit can give you the highest probability of that outcome, which could in fact be 99.9% probable of that person's free will agreeing and aligning with yours. It will go forward. The biggest rule that spirit follows, though, that is part of being human, is honoring free will, meaning that teeny tiny percent of that person's free will could change last minute, which alters what you were told was a go ahead. I've learned that I will give people percentages of how probable this feels to me. I'll ask spirit, like, say somebody's like, am I going to get this job? What do you feel? I may feel yes within a span of 3 months-ish, give or take. Highest probable outcome to me feels about an 80% or 90% or 95. I will never give 100% if there is any other person involved, even though the actual person themselves, because free will can change it. And so that's a really important thing to remember, because in any reading, like we've said, you're getting a snapshot at that time in which the information is being given or we are pulling from it. We get a snapshot in that current moment, but it can change based on people's free will, and that's a variable we cannot.
Even if you're just working with one person, I do not like the 100%, because timeline energies and frequencies can also change. So even if you've like signed up for that and it is in your like blueprint kind of thing, even to that extent, timelines can change. And the energies that support that choice that your soul made to do this or have this experience can choose to change it or alter it based upon what the collective energy is sitting at. Like right up until like what planetary alignment, so it can best support this choice, you know what I mean? So like there's so many variables. And also, like, if you have readings with anybody, like, really be cautious if somebody's giving you a yes 100% you will do this. It's like, allow yourself the space to know that things can change.
You can change your mind.
And I think that can apply to both sides of the coin, you know, and this is one of the reasons why I don't say everything happens for a reason, because I could have, a timeline and a trajectory that I'm going on. And then last minute, I'm like, ooh, actually, I need to go get groceries today. I'm going to go do that. And I maybe feel like I shouldn't, but I do it anyways because it's easier for my schedule. And then it happens that somebody completely disconnected 3D wise to my life decides, oh, I'm going to drink and drive today. And I get in a car accident with them. And that changes my trajectory because of their choices, right? That can happen. It's so infinite the way things play out that it's not always that everything happens for a reason or was predestined or was pre-planned. Other people's free will always has an impact on what the highest good is or what the highest potential is or all of that. And so sometimes that can feel like, well, why didn't somebody warn me about that? And it's like, well, because that wasn't in the game plan, but of the
Like,
million
and
trillion.
that can be like your partner too.
Yeah.
So when that
Totally.
happens, that can be really frustrating because it's like,
Totally.
I did not plan for this. And like, especially when you're used to like really working with spirit and like aligning and doing it in alignment, it's like it's like not everything is 100% set in stone because there's so many variables, right?
Yeah. And
This is
can
why
we find
probability.
lessons in all of them? Sure. But like, that doesn't mean that
That's
it
right.
all happens for a reason
Yeah.
and that it was
We
planned
can
for that.
find purpose in everything and
Totally.
lessons and learning and growth and even void. There's even purpose in being in void, which is like I've been placed in void before because so many variables have gone on around and it's like we're going to place you in the void for a sec. So you're like almost in between time and space. You're there as a human, but like, you know, can you guys relate where you're like you're in the void right now? Like you're kind of just being held while shit figures itself out around you, you know what I mean? Like that's also what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probabilities is a great way to uh, walk in and out of a reading with for people that are experiencing it is like you are having an experience of the highest probabilities at that time that you can receive and then move from there, right? Like see what happens, make choices according to it and all that kind of stuff instead of walking out as spirit said, therefore this is.
Totally.
Because if you give up your sense of self, you're no longer in co-creation with the universe. You are becoming codependent or you're just following. You're not co-creating. Like as a human, you're here to learn and
Exactly.
co-create. So you take what you
Exactly.
get, which is beautiful, and you work with it
That's
forward.
why it like takes like 2 weeks of what I was told to really integrate into that individual's like aura and cells and everything so that they can walk forward with the energy that they received to
Mhm.
integrate into their being, not what they were told to do. You know what I mean? Totally different thing because it's not me, it's not Lisa Richmond who's telling you what to do, right?
Mhm.
I agreed to be the messenger from the highest consciousness available for the greatest good. And so if you're going into a reading, for anyone who's watching, instead of having maybe the intention or the hope or wish to have all your questions answered and to know at the end what you should do, have the intention to receive what is for the greatest good.
Yeah,
So that, like, otherwise, it's kind of like you have a really um, expectation hangover kind of thing, you know?
true. Very
And that
true.
expectation can block that information sometimes,
Absolutely.
which then leaves you feeling more let down, I guess, than
Totally.
you
You
needed to.
said,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway, this was a good one. We thought we wouldn't know what to say. This really was
I know.
good. And at
Awesome.
least you were here and totally present and contributed.
See,
And I love
yeah, it was just as Ginette was just talking, I was like,
it.
And I'm done.
Elyse, look at
Yeah.
your face. You probably look like you just are
No,
something.
I can feel that from you. I can feel that you're done.
Awesome.
It's a good
Okay,
place
well,
to wrap it up.
yeah, I think that's great. That was awesome, ladies. So nice to see you guys again
Oh,
and for
it's
us
so
to
good
all
to
be
be back.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes. Thank you. And it's so good to be back.
Awesome. Okay,
Okay.
guys. Well, have a beautiful rest of your day.
Yeah.
If you
See you
guys are
next
looking
week.
to book some readings, Avalon Spirit is a great place to go. Gotta say so
That's
myself.
where we are.
I know. Definitely check it out. And share this with anyone if they are kind of curious about a reading. This is a great one to get some insights about it. So do subscribe and share.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.